Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajakacharya Asutara Satasri Mad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories of Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 15, text 28. Sutta Uvacha Evam Chintayato Jishno Krishna Pada Saruham Sahardena Tigadena Santasid Vimalamati Sutta Uvacha Evam Chintayato Jishno Krishna Pada Saruham Sahardena Tigadena Shantasid Vimalamati Sutta Uvacha Evam Chintayato Jishno Krishna Pada Saruham Sahardena Tigadena Santasid Vimalamati. Sutta Uvacha Evam Chintayato Vishno Madena Siddhasena Santashid Vimalamati. Sutta Uvacha Evam Chintayato Jishno Krishna Pada Saruham Sararadena Tigadena Santasid Vimalamati. Ladies. Sutta Uvacha To Jishno Krishna Pada Saruham Sahadena Tigadena Sutta Uvacha Evam Chintayato Jishno Krishna Pada Saruham Sardena Tigadena Sutta Uvacha Evam Chintayato Jishno Sutta Uvacha. Sutta Goswami said, Evam, thus, Chintayata, while thinking of the instructions, Jishnoho, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishnapada, the feet of Krishna. Saro Ruham, resembling lotuses. Sauhardena, by deep friendship. Atigadena, in great intimacy. Shanta, pacified. Ashit, it so became. Vimala, without any tinge of material contamination. Matihi, mind. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, thus being deeply absorbed in thinking of the instructions of the Lord, which were imparted in the great intimacy of friendship, and in thinking of his lotus feet, Arjuna's mind became pacified and free from all material contamination. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Since the Lord is absolute, deep meditation upon him is as good as yogic trance. The Lord is non-different from his name, form, quality, pastimes, entourage, and specific actions. Arjuna began to think of the Lord's instructions to him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Only those instructions began to eliminate the tinges of material contamination in the mind of Arjuna. The Lord is like the sun. The sun's appearance means immediate dissipation of darkness or ignorance, and the Lord's appearance within the mind of the devotee can at once drive away the miserable material effects. Lord Chaitanya has therefore recommended constant chanting of the name of the Lord for protection from all contamination of the material world. The feeling of separation from the Lord is undoubtedly painful to the devotee, but because it is in connection with the Lord, it has a specific transcendental effect which pacifies the heart. Feelings of separation are also sources of transcendental bliss, and they are never comparable to contaminated material feelings of separation. I can repeat the translation. Sutta Goswami said, thus being deeply absorbed in thinking of the instructions of the Lord, which were imparted in the great intimacy of friendship, and in thinking of his lotus feet, Arjuna's mind became pacified and free from all material contamination. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapatandikam Vanchakopa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasudi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Rama Rama Hari Hari. Good morning, Hare Krishna, everyone. I'd like to thank Sura Prabhu asked me if I would give class this morning. I tried a few times to decline, but he was pretty insistent. So, of course, this is a very special weekend. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Huvas and everyone for this festival that's been going on for, I guess, almost 25 years now. I'm not sure the exact number, but... And we know that this weekend, I think, is going to be especially blissful and juicy because it's about cooking for Prabhupada. And so I think it's going to be very special. It's one of the most intimate things you can do for a person. Just feed them. So it should be especially nice. This verse is especially nice. Of course, being asked just a few minutes ago I didn't feel qualified to speak. But I'll start from the very beginning. Sutta Uvacha. Oh, I'm not speaking. Yes, thank you. Sutta Uvacha. So it was May of 1972. I was here. I came with Kirtanananda Swami and Kaladri Prabhu and a few others. Some of us came for Brahmin initiation. We drove across country from New Vrindavan in a cargo van, windowless cargo van. Anyway, after 4 days, we were here. Because I was with Kirtanananda Swami, and I was kind of like a personal servant, but not officially. So I always got to be on the morning walks and in Prabhupada's garden, his beautiful garden right here. And Karundar was in charge, GBC at that time. So the very first day, morning walk, and then I go into the garden with Prabhupada. So this is the second time I'm seeing him. The first time was when I received first initiation in New York, Henry Street Temple, 8 months before. So I got to go in the garden with 4 or 5 other devotees. And as soon as I walked in, Karundar handed me the Krishna book. And he said, when Prabhupada asks you, read Krishna book. I said, okay. It's the same thing I did for Kirtanananda in New Vrindavan. He would have me read Krishna book while everyone ate lunch. So I read Krishna book, and it was the most amazing thing, seeing Prabhupada's expressions each day. I won't get into that now, but he was laughing and laughing, hearing these stories about Krishna, with tears coming out of his eyes. He was laughing so hard, listening to Krishna and Balaram killing demons, blood flying around. Prabhupada loved it. Anyway, that went on every day for 5 days. So, and in the morning, we would be right there on the other side of that door, waiting for Prabhupada to come down the steps for the morning walk. I got to go on the morning walk. It was incredible. I wasn't a book distributor, I wasn't anything, but I was there. And then we would come back every day. Prabhupada would, that little street right there, same potholes, filled with potholes. Are there still potholes? Did they ever fix it? Prabhupada would get out of the different car each day, walk in, everybody offering obeisances, dandavats in the street. And then he would walk up the stairs. And we would just stand there with our hands folded, all young children. So the one day he walked up, and he got to the 3rd step, so I was right in front of him. And he just looked at me, and he said, Sutta Goswami. I was reading Krishna book to him every day. So he looked at me, he said, Sutta Goswami, and he just kept walking up the stairs. So that was, he recognized me. I was his Krishna book reader. So again, this verse, separation. We all have this wonderful, bittersweet experience now, many of us. Separation from Srila Prabhupada. I can't speak about separation from Krishna, which is described here, because I would have to have love for him to feel separation. I haven't arrived at that state. I feel separation from Prabhupada. I was going to talk about, since the festival is about cooking, I figured I'd talk about the other end, eating, honoring prasadam. Prabhupada honored prasadam. When I was with him, he was honoring it 3 times a day. And I thought that's always what happened, because I was with him for almost 2.5 years, over a course of 3 years, from 1972 into the middle of 1975. And as soon as I became his servant, First thing he did was show me how to use the cooker. I can't talk about that now. I'll have to save that. But that's the first thing he did. Showed me how to use that cooker. I can't wait to see it. I feel separation from the cooker. I shouldn't get in, but I'm going to anyway. The cooker was my best friend, you know. Los Angeles was one of my favorite places with Prabhupada. And he knew that. Was another name he gave me. He called me, not named me. Was here in New Dwarka. Now you hear the sirens. You hear the sirens all the time. And when Prabhupada was here, you used to hear the huh, huh. They had that karate place right outside his window. And because it was always there, it didn't bother him. If it was something that happened once or twice, he would have said, "What is this? Stop this." But it was a constant. So he absorbed that noise despite everything, doing so much work. So after we had been in New Dwarka once or twice as his servant here, sometimes he would stay for a month. So I get to know so many people, the devotees in the community. Everyone was so nice. So one day when we came from somewhere and he walked up, he always had a way when he would walk up the stairs and he would have his bead bag and he would look out the windows, the surroundings, his neighborhood here. And he was looking out the window and I'm putting things on his desk, opening up his white bag. So I put his tilak, his little compact, his tilak, picture of the deities, picture of the spiritual master, his pen, his file. And as I'm doing it, he's looking out the window and he said, "So, Srutakirti Maharaj, how do you like it here in New Dwarka?" Because he knew I liked New Dwarka. I said, "Very nice, Prabhupada." One other time he called me Srutakirti Maharaj in Mayapur. He said the same thing. "How do you like it here in Mayapur?" But then it was the opposite. He liked Mayapur. Prabhupada loved Mayapur. I could see when he was looking out into the vastness of rice fields outside the window from his room in the Lotus building. I don't know what he saw, but he would always just look out, and he looked so happy, so content, because he knew what was happening, what was going to happen. He saw everything. Looking back, I can imagine. He was so, again, what can I say? He was so in ecstasy there. But here in Los Angeles, it was very nice. So cooking here, for me, was very simple. It was a 2-burner stove on the floor, a gas stove. That was it in the servants' room. I think the servants' room it's like a storage room now. So we had Prabhupada's quarters, and then after his bathroom, that was the servants' quarters. You always left the door open, never closed the door. And he would regularly chant japa, and he would walk by, see what you were up to in the service. He would just walk back again, just walk back and forth. And okay, so prasadam is what I learned was it's not always what Prabhupada did. Govinda Dasi was cooking for him for a year. Nanda Kumar Prabhu, I spoke with him recently. Harisari Prabhu. At that time, it seemed Prabhupada was eating at nighttime. His lunch was always very, very regular, rice, chapatis, dal, different sabjis. But at night, he always had hot milk. They always served him hot milk as well. And if he had anything, he would have puffed rice. But usually just hot milk. So that's over several years, six-year period. But when I was with him, I remember one of the first, we went to Dallas, and he would ring his bell 8 o'clock at night. I said, "So tonight you can make puri," he'd say, "and potato eggplant." So that's how he trained me up from the beginning. I was cooking a meal every evening. I remember we got to San Francisco. And he said, "You make me some He said, make me puris and chips, potato chips. So I've been a servant for 4 days, from Philadelphia. So I go in the kitchen and I thought, potato chips? All right, so I make the puris and I get a potato and I get a knife and I'm slicing as thin as possible chips, potato chips. I cook them up in ghee, nice fresh ghee. Cook the puris in ghee. Puris were all white flour, just white, unbleached white flour. That was puris, that's what Prabhupada had. Puris and chips. So again, I was new. I come into Prabhupada, I put the plate down on his table, and he looks, he says, what is this? I said, they're potato chips, Prabhupada. He said, that's not chips. It took me 30 years. It wasn't until I moved to England that I figured out he was talking about French fries. So I had made potato chips, which we knew, which of course chips, he knew, Prabhupada knew chips, British, fish and chips, he understood. So then, of course, that was my first big failure. So I went back into the kitchen, made another puri, popped up, brought it back in, put it down, and he looked, he said, oh, very good. He said, these are very good. But he never asked me for chips. Next 2.5 years, he never asked for chips again. One of the things Prabhupada enjoyed also was seeing his disciples eat. He enjoyed. So there were different places he could do that. Mayapur was one of them. The Lotus Building. Those of you who know the Lotus Building, Prabhupada's rooms on the first floor. And right next to his rooms, that's of course where we stayed at that time. So in those days, 1973, 74, you can't imagine what it was like to be in Mayapur. It wasn't even a village practically. There were a few temples there. Getting anything was very difficult. It was very austere for the devotees. But Prabhupada being anywhere made everything different, changed everything. His presence made anything possible. So of course every day he would come and watch. He would walk out of his room as we would be sitting on the veranda against the wall. And the Bengali brahmacharis, they would be serving us. Bhavananda would be there, Jayapataka Maharaj would be there. And his servant, secretary like that, whoever else. And Prabhupada didn't talk or anything. And he did it very, inconspicuously. He didn't make a scene. And you knew that when you were around Prabhupada. He just went about his business. You offered your obeisances, and whatever he wanted to do, he did. There he liked to walk back and forth on the veranda. It's a nice, pretty marble, shiny marble floor. So he walked back and forth, but he saw everything. Prabhupada always saw everything everyone was doing and not doing. He knew who was there, who wasn't there, how much you were eating. He walked by, and then he came by, and brahmachari, a Bengali brahmachari was serving me, and Prabhupada said something to him in Bengali. And he kept walking. I said, what did he say? He said, he told me to give you a lot of prasadam. Then he just kept walking. In Bhaktivedanta Manor, Prabhupada was there. It was one time I was with him for his Vyas Puja, and John Mastami, it was 1973. It was at Bhaktivedanta Manor. So, like we all do, John Mastami Day we fasted, 24 hours we fasted. So that night, 1 o'clock in the morning, I had a little prasadam, little fruit or something. I wasn't hungry. Then it was Vyas Puja, Prabhupada's Vyas Puja Day. And in his room, Bhaktivedanta Manor, one of his biggest sitting rooms, he had everything they had prepared for him was in front of him, like in 15 different trays. You've seen the video, Yodabar did a video of that, and you just see Prabhupada picking, choosing whatever he wanted, just enjoying. So then after he ate, then he rang his bell. I came in the room, I'm sitting in front of him, and he looks at me. said, "Are you okay?" "Yes, Prabhupada." He said, "You sure?" He said, "You look gaunt." He went like that, He said, "Your health is okay?" He said, "You look very thin." I said, "Yes." I said, "Well, it was Janmashtami." I said, "We fasted." I said, "And I didn't eat much." And then, of course, the day we fasted, and I said I wasn't that hungry so I didn't eat that much. And he looked at me. He said, "You have service to do." He said, "You have to massage me every day." He said, "You have to be strong." He said, "You have to eat lots of prasadam." He said, "How are you going to serve if you don't eat?" I said, "Yes, Prabhupada." 2 years later, he said the same thing to me. Janmashtami, Vyas Puja. And I have no memory, and this was in Vrindavan. "You okay?" "Yes, Prabhupada." You look, he said, "You look thin." So the same thing. So every day I'm listening to him on the Vyasasan. Reduce your sleeping, reduce your eating. That's all we ever heard. But whenever I did it, he would yell at me. The first time I cooked for him, he was right beside me, 5 feet away in the kitchen in his quarters in Dallas. And he was cutting up vegetables, showing me how to use the cooker. And I was at the sink. He said, "Wash the rice." So I got the container, would sit in his tiffin, or in the cooker, a tiffin that would sit in there and steam the rice. So I got the rice, I put it under, wish it around, pour the water out. I put it back, and he's cutting vegetables over there. I put it back under the water, put the water in, start whisking it around. "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm washing the rice 3 times. "Why? Once is enough." So all I ever heard when I became a devotee, we had so many rules. That was one of them. He washed the rice 3 times. He watched me. He saw me. But he told me not to do it. Right here in Los Angeles, it was nice. Sometimes he would, I'll talk about that later, but came in for hot milk. Always would just put sugar in his milk. So he came by, he said, "I'll put honey in it." And of course it was boiling. I said, "Prabhupada, according to Ayurveda, Prabhupada, it becomes poison." He said, "Just put the honey in it." So, he knew, Prabhupada knew I wasn't the best person at following rules and regulations. So I don't know what it did, but he always seemed, every time I tried to apply a rule, he would tell me not to do it. I think it was out of kindness, understanding. Just like he would always tell me, "Just read this one book." He said it to me 3 different occasions because I was up there not reading any books. So he says, "Just read one book and you can become Krishna conscious." So he dealt with this all exactly as we needed to make progress in Krishna consciousness. He made everything perfect. I got to see personally every day how he handled every silly situation I got myself into and how he could correct it. And still to this day, how he adjusts, always is adjusting for us. This is why we become attached to Prabhupada. And the only cure for it is described right here in this verse. What's it say? What was Arjuna meditating on? Began to think of his instructions. Meditated on the Lord's instructions. And then he felt pacified. This is how we become pacified. This is Sadhu Sangha. This weekend, a couple thousand devotees will be in North Carolina. Sadhu Sangha. This is Sadhu Sangha. Everywhere we go, we speak about the pastimes of the Lord and his devotees. It's Sadhu Sangha. And this is what Prabhupada always wanted. This is why he brought us together. This is why he's given us these temples to come together, to ease feelings of separation. Otherwise, if you don't do it, what happens? You dry up. I know. I've been there. I left ISKCON The shelter of ISKCON, 1983, I left the temple with my family. Had business, lived outside 40 minutes from a temple. It was 1995 I started writing what became later, became 10 years later or so, a book, What is the Difficulty? But it was after 12 years of being very, very dried up. And it was like a flood. As soon as I just started reading and remembering Prabhupada, everything changed. I was going to work every day for 8 hours out of my own business. I couldn't wait to come home and decide what am I going to talk about today when I get home from work, when I sit with Prabhupada again. It was temple room there on the other side. I guess right on the other side of the deities is where Prabhupada's Vyasasan would be, pretty much. Anyway, over there, it was a class. I was sitting right there, and it was that class. Prabhupada, he looked at his watch, and he said, whatever it was, what is it now? 8:11. 8:11. He said, in 10 seconds. He said, whatever you do, you cannot reclaim that time. It's gone. He said, with millions of dollars, you can't get it back. And I would sit there and think, oh, I would try to understand. Couldn't understand the concept of why that was. I thought, well, we're eternal. There's not this moment. There's so many more coming ahead. I'm sitting there, 22-year-old, didn't understand anything. It wasn't until 1995, like 25 years later, I was sitting remembering that time that was gone. Prabhupada was gone. Didn't see him anymore. Couldn't ask him anything. No one could write him letters anymore. Just see how severe the reaction was, of Prabhupada's disappearance. It didn't matter. It had to happen. Something had to happen. He had left. A pure devotee who spread Krishna consciousness all around the world. Purified the entire planet everywhere he stepped. 14 times. Making thousands and thousands of pilgrimage sites. Places of pilgrimage. Everywhere he put a footstep. And then he was gone. What happened when Krishna left the planet? All the devotees were destroyed. They all died. They all got killed. They had to go. What could we expect was going to happen? It's a struggle. All we can do is come together. Try to remember Prabhupada by following his instructions. That's how we associate. I got to associate with him no matter what. If I was chanting, not chanting, I still was massaging him every day, cooking for him every day, because he was here. That was his very special mercy during that time. He left so much, but then he left. So then if you want to stay in that association, you're all doing it. You know, this is how we do it. What time does class go till? Here? Okay. No, I said, what time? Oh, okay. I didn't talk much about prasadam. But if there are any questions about anything. Yes, Prabhu. Yes. When I was in Bombay, I got malaria. Not malaria, jaundice. So, of course, very, very contagious. And Tamal Krishna told me I couldn't cook for Prabhupada because you might get jaundice because it's contagious. So again, I just went right into Prabhupada's room, offered a base, and says, Prabhupada, I said, I have jaundice. And before I could say anything, Prabhupada said, oh, he said, what are the symptoms? I said, well, your eyes turn yellow. I said, and your urine become very dark and brown. I said, and you have no energy. He looked, he said, oh, he said, perhaps I have jaundice. That was a joke. He said, because this is life. Prabhupada was 80 years old. So anyway, I said, but Tamal says I shouldn't cook for you because it's very contagious. He said, just do your service, he said. He'll always say to me, just do your service. He said, don't worry about it. And 2 years later, we were in Hyderabad. Brahmananda was Prabhupada's secretary. I was servant. And Brahmananda had jaundice. So our thing, when you had jaundice, the thing was you only just ate steamed vegetables, everything very simple. So our thing was steamed vegetables. So we're in our room, and we're taking prasadam. It's after lunch, after Prabhupada had eaten. And Brahmananda has this plate. It looked like, how we do Govardhan Hill. His plate, because it was only steamed vegetables, and Brahmananda ate a lot. So it was literally like that high, just down. And Prabhupada's walking right through the room. And he looks, and he says to Brahmananda, he said, are you going to eat all that? But yes, Prabhupada. Okay. He says, whatever you take, he said, you have to eat. Yes, Prabhupada. So then I went back in the room, and Prabhupada said, what is he eating? I said, Prabhupada, Brahmananda has jaundice. And Prabhupada says, oh. He said, what are the symptoms? So I tell him the symptoms. Oh, he said, perhaps I have jaundice. Here in LA, I would have, after I was here for a couple of months, we had Bhadra and Nirakula. So I would have them cook things for Prabhupada. Special things like lasagna, eggplant parmesan. And for breakfast, they would bring blueberry pancakes. I like those things. But I would give him, Prabhupada would touch, he would take a little piece. Prabhupada liked, we know what he liked. He introduced it to us. I was on a plane once, we were going somewhere. And put down the tables and the trays. I put down Prabhupada. It was chapatis and sabji. And I'm sitting eating. And Prabhupada starts eating. And he starts laughing as he's eating. And he looks. He said, I would never eat chapatis when I was young. He said, only puris. He said, you could not give me a chapati. He said, my whole life, even as a grahasta, I never ate chapatis. I mean, he's like really, he was into this, as he's sitting there. He said, we would go out. He said, when I was a grahasta, if we were invited out, he said, we would be at people's houses. He said, and if they had chapatis, he said, I wouldn't eat them. He said, and it was very difficult. He said, because they will serve you. He said, to be able to do it, he said, wasn't easy. He said, what's going to happen? They're going to give me a chapati? And I'll say, no chapati? Oh, you're too good to eat our chapati? So like he turned it into he had a whole conversation going on of what would happen. Even it didn't happen, but he was saying, imagine, he said, I couldn't eat chapatis. Then he said, I had one servant. And he would always say to me, he cooked, served me, he cooked for him. He'd say, let me make you chapatis. No. He said, every day he kept saying, please. He said, let me make you chapatis. He said, I'm going to make you chapatis. He said, you're going to eat them all the time. He said, you're going to love it so much, you're always going to... And Prabhupada's describing this very animated. When Prabhupada told a story, he became the story. He was a one-act play. He took the characters, he spoke in different intonations. It was wonderful. So he's going on, and so finally I said, okay, make me chapatis. He said, and I ate these chapatis. He said, it was so wonderful. So, and that was the beginning. And every day I was with Prabhupada, made chapatis. Right here in Los Angeles. It was one of my favorite places here because it was very simple here, just down the hall. You know, Prabhupada had me make, that was the first time we had a kitchen in the servants' quarters because he didn't want his servants going into the deity kitchen, the temple kitchen, because it was filled with brahmacharinis. And his previous servant got entangled in there. So that's why we cooked up there, and I would just run back and forth with chapatis. Prabhupada would eat some days 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chapatis. And you just had that little stove in there. So I bring one chapati in at a time, and you just slide it on, puffed up chapati. If it doesn't puff up, it's useless. And every chapati, Radharani was very kind to me. They always worked. I never had a problem cooking every day with that cooker for almost 2 years. I never burnt anything, even though it sat on the stove sometimes for 2 hours under a flame. It was magic. You go in, you slide it on his plate, offer obeisances, go back. You just keep doing it until he goes, then no more chapatis. Is that okay, Prabhu? Okay. All right. So we'll stop here. We'll be speaking much more. Thank you all very much for the opportunity. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you, Sura Prabhu.